Ever have enough time to play it all? You know everybody wants to walk in someone else's shoes. Everyone's forgotten who they are.
Hey guys, welcome back to Otter Creek in Rio Grande. And another building Silver Gulch video. So you can see here, the maquette has come a long way since the last time you saw it. And what I can say for sure is I'm very glad that I took the extra time to do this, because it both confirmed kind of my overall vision and the fact that I truly believe that I can do this the way that I thought I was going to be able to. So what are my takeaways from doing this? I think the first thing that was kind of revealed to me, I didn't need a ton of height on top of this ridge line to, achieve what I'm trying to achieve. As long as that ridge line stays above the height of the tallest building, from a perspective of a guy standing on the ground, or maybe just a little taller than, you have a good scene block and or backdrop for the town. Because that's really what this is it's a backdrop for the town as much as it is anything else. And, through all of my thought process in coming up with this, it became obvious that what's really important is what it's going to look like when it gets photographed, and not necessarily what it's going to look like from an operator. Because bottom line, I'm probably going to be the only one operating this railroad. There will be visitors from time to time, but on any regular basis, I will be the only one operating it. So what do I care if I can see over the top of the ridge line here? And, all it really needs to do is block the tracks directly behind it. And that's easily done. So that's kind of the first thing it did, is it helped me make that decision. Another thing is that it helped, kind of confirm that I was going to have an issue here, which I knew that when I decided to make this yard wrap around, that was a decision that I decided that I wanted the operational value of having this yard over whatever complications it was going to cause with the scenery. So, what that means is that I'm going to be forced to have a sheer cliff face for some portion of this part of the scenery here. And I figure if that's, the worst concession I have to make with the model railroad, then, I can definitely live with that. I haven't talked much about this particular location on the railroad, and that's because there's some complications in here that require some thought and problem solving that I haven't quite figured out yet. So what I'm ultimately wanting is some kind of runoff that, with these buildings, will be up in the air by probably an inch above the track level. That way I can have a creek run through in between the two buildings, just like the real Atlantic cable mine, and then come out and exit somewhere over here. Now, the idea is that this creek really isn't a creek so much as it's just a place where water runs off when you've got heavy snows and or heavy rains, so that it could be dry at any given point in time. And the other thing is I'm wanting the trestle leaving the mine shaft house here to go out here, and so that all of my, I think they call them tailings, all of the stuff that's not gonna go in an ore car to be processed, to be dumped over here. So, you know, the way this is designed is you've got a trestle going out and a trestle going out this way, and you can also go out the other way. And so the cars will be loaded on this side of this, and then all of your spoils or whatever you want to call them will go over here. And then from here to here will be a trestle, which looks pretty small here, but it's 2 foot, so it'll be a pretty good trestle. And then I'm trying to decide if I want to go with the standard model railroad cliche and put a tunnel right before the trestle. I just don't know whether I want to do that or not yet. So that's kind of what I'm looking at there. And, you know, that's all complicated by the fact that my sidings, my spur sidings here, have to be on a radius. So how all that works is I'm still a little iffy on, and I may end up having to come back and cut some of this out and kind of reshape it in a way that's going to work for me. Here I've built in a cut, and I think that's going to work pretty good. And you know, I'm not 100% sure how all this is going to look on the outside of the track, because I'm pretty limited because there's not going to be a lot of space. I'm thinking 3 inches is what I've planned for on the outside. This may actually be more than 3 scale inches. I'm going to have to do some measuring there, but that's the idea. I can take or leave this part depending on the space that I have. Now, looking right through here, when I first put up my styrofoam ridge, that's when I first came up with the idea to have this road continue on and bend around. I hadn't really thought of that until I saw that ridge there. So that's another good point about doing this, is that you might see something that you might not see until it's too late, or maybe you didn't see it at all if you start working with the actual life-size model. So it allowed me to play with that, and I decided that that would work real good. And then the road also bends around. So my thought is, if I build up some trees on top of here and on top of here, you know, the idea that that road bends around, it's going to provide a bit of imagination that allows a person to wonder what's on the other side of that. And so there's just kind of an added story to what's going on there, and it just doesn't stop. So that's kind of the thought there. And then, of course, you can see the road out of here, right through here, comes up and terminates right here. Now this is prototypical to Blackhawk. There's actually a wall all along the back side of the street here, and there's a ladder that goes on the back side of City Hall here up to that place. Now, I don't know that I'm going to model that. I haven't really thought that yet. There's a school and a big church up here. Now, I figured out real quick when I started putting this on that there was no way I could model either the school or the church, at least in their actual sizes, because they're rather large buildings. I want to say that church it's at least 40 by 60 if I remember right. It might be 40 by 70, I can't remember. But, you know, this building here, I believe is 50 by 50. I think it's either 50 by 50 or 30 by 30. So if you put something, you know, similar size up here, you know, it's not gonna work. But I might be able to come up with a little country church you know, maybe 20 by 40, maybe, that might work up in there if all the citizens of the town don't get eaten alive by giant flies. Get out of here. So that's gonna work. I really think that that road on the backside, because I was a little worried it might not, but I think it's gonna work. And you know, in the real prototype, that road goes on that way. So obviously I can't do that, but you know, there was also I believe a coal dealership up here, and there was a trestle, maybe that's not the right word, a tram that went all the way down, and I believe it went into this coal dealership right here, into this, what I'm calling the coal shed of that particular industry. I don't think I'll model that by any means, but that's where I'm at right now. And I'll point out one more little thing on the other side. So here's the road as it wraps around, and you know, I'm thinking about putting something in here. Maybe I'll do what Bill did and put a little moonshiner shack or something in here that just is just a little mini scene right in here. And the idea is, with trees on this side will block kind of the view over there. And then if I also have trees growing up here, then it kind of creates what's the word I'm looking for? It will frame this scene right here so that, you know, it just will provide the right kind of framing for the scene. And then you should be able to sneak a peek from a higher elevation down that road as you go by. Maybe just over the top of the trees, or maybe there's a break in the trees. That's another thing that eventually I will do with this. If I can figure out a way to mock up a tree of the appropriate size and put in here, I might do it. Because this is going to be a working model as I move forward, so that I can make adjustments, go back and forth. You know, my shred-a-sculpt will get added in places, and I might even have to cut some out. So that's where I'm at on that. So translating what I've learned from the maquette, you know, the 1:3 scale back to the 1:87 scale, is that how am I going to approach this area in here? And you can see the biggest problem is the backside of the Dirty Shame Saloon to whatever distance I need to be away from this track over here. So that's my biggest problem area. And I believe the maquette, I got this area through here, it's too tall. I think what I should have done is shaved another 1/2 inch or inch, which would have been, what, a foot, give or take, of height in this area on the maquette. So what I think I need to do next is to go ahead and come in here with a piece of cardboard and create my line as it goes all the way across, and then, you know, start with it way too high, and then with a magic marker kind of draw in where I think the highest points need to be. So this point between Dirty Shame and these tracks definitely needs to be something close to a sheer cliff. I don't think there's any avoiding that, but I think I've got room here to have more of a gentle sloping hill with trees out of it to help block the scenery here, which I've already mentioned. But one option I have available to me is, you know, some geography that looks a little bit like this. Not near the height of these whatever that is called. I don't know what kind of geography that is, but as it comes kind of on the backside of the coal station through here, the idea is that maybe that's what I create to get a little bit of my height, so I have both a gentle slope up to this kind of tower geometry. That's kind of what I'm thinking should work between here and in here. And then I can make up for with some trees here and there. I feel like the Maquette has proven that I can do that. Another thing that the Maquette kind of showed to me is that I had these three buildings probably twice the distance that I had there. So I figured out I needed to move these in and give me a little bit more room on that end. So, you know, all in all, the next thing I need to figure out on the Maquette is what do I want to do in here? You've seen these black lines. I put those in a long time ago when I was actually doing the track work, because I want something in here to represent probably a riverbed. I don't think I want to put a river in here, but I like the idea of maybe putting a bank in. Maybe you can just see the bank of the river. I'm still kind of indecisive about what I want that all to be. I just for sure don't want the entire length from that end to this end to be fascia. I want some foreground scenery there that will help for photography. Well, I got the river put in here and I kind of got carried away and started doing some painting and some other things to try and make it all look just a little, I guess, nicer than what it did before. You can definitely take a look at the stonework and kind of see two different styles off in there. That closest to us, right in here, that started out really nice with some light washes, and then I ended up trying to go in with a darker wash to accentuate the crevices and cracks, and pretty much ended up ruining it. So, you know, that was a good experiment. Light washes, in my opinion, is definitely the way to go with plaster. Now, I've also gone in and painted all of the little buildings, and the ones that are brick, that I know for sure are gonna be brick, I painted kind of an oxide red. Everything else was white, with the exception of the station and the eating house, which I haven't talked about yet because I'm still not 100% sure how that's going to work precisely. You know, the idea is that the eating house is kind of connected to the station there via a boardwalk or something, and then it sits right on the edge of a rock cliff there with a balcony facing the river. That's kind of what I'm going for there. I think I can do the river as long as it's fairly narrow. And of course, you can't really tell by looking at it here because it just, you know, I didn't want to put a whole lot of effort into, you know, the relief of it. So I chose not to use any plaster or a Sculptamold at all, which would have turned out better. But I might come back and revisit that. I don't know. But I think that's good for this video. This maquette has been a real joy to put together. I strongly suggest, you know, anyone who's unsure of their scenery, especially if you're trying to go for anything dynamic, to try this. It's a lot of fun. And, you know, in my case, I was bogged down with bench work, track work, wiring, bench work, track work, wiring, bench work, track work, wiring for almost the whole last year. So doing something like this was a real nice change of pace, and it gives me some confidence in how to actually go about doing this on the actual layout. And you know, there's one more thing I'm gonna do before I go big in the layout room, and that's put cardboard across the backside just to kind of see what kind of distance I have from the buildings to the top of the cardboard where I think it needs to be. But that's for another video. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you again.
Stand in line.